Hello beautiful bookish people, my name is Hannah and today we are going to be reviewing fictional Hannahs. Yep, that's me. That's right, my name is Hannah and we're going to be reviewing how accurate I feel that fictionalized Hannahs represent me. So I'm sure we've all had the experience of reading your name in a book and thinking, I'm in the book. And the name Hannah has just an interesting selection of characters that I just want to come along and rate them with you based on my experience, how they represent me, and all that stuff. We're going to be diving into the stereotypes of the name Hannah because there's a common theme. So the first one, the OG, we have to talk about my namesake, Hannah from the Bible. Hannah is Hebrew and it means grace or favored by God, which basically means, if you want a modern translation, it just means good luck. So if you are named Hannah, I don't want to say that you're guaranteed good luck, but there is a high probability. Hannah from the Bible is a woman who was barren and all she wanted to do was give a boy to her husband. So she prayed to God and I think Eli blessed her and then suddenly she could have a baby. And then she had a baby named Samuel, which is another story. But Hannah is supposed to represent purity and keeping your faith with God and have faith in the Lord and He will be there. Understand it, love it. But also, Hannah never lost faith. She was always like, I'm in your hands, Lord, and that is unrelatable. There's a lot of pressure with that name to always be believing and always having a good spirits and good faith. So the name Hannah, I have a weird relationship with it because it's so weird to me that there is so little discussion of Hannah actually in the Bible and how popular the name is. I'm saying, like, we could rebrand Heather's and just call it the Hannahs, talking about purity culture in the South. That would be another video. But overall, Hannah, I understand why the name is so popular, but also it does sort of leave a lot of pressure on me to always have faith. And sometimes that is hard. So for that reason, I'm going to give Hannah from the Bible, my name origin, a 6 out of 10. Because I love her, I understand her, but also she puts a lot of pressure on me. So, moving on, we're going to be talking about 13 Reasons Why.
Hey, it's Hannah Baker.
We're not going to be talking about the TV show, only the book, because when I read it, I actually felt liberated that Hannahs could make mistakes, which sounds super cheesy and super dumb, but it did happen. I was like, oh my gosh, Hannah's going through a friendship breakup? This is crazy. So it did, for me, in that particular reason, kind of break that facade of the perfect Hannah. I liked that she didn't smile for pictures. I liked that she drank coffee and gossiped with her friends. She felt very real to me. And I do think I read that Hannah at a good time, but because of the association with the TV show and then just Jay Asher and then poor representation of mental health, I am also going to have to give this one a 6 out of 10 because it's not the best Hannah at all, like even in the slightest. But I do appreciate what she did for my own conception and understanding of the name Hannah, because we don't have to be perfect and God's not asking that of us. So moving on to number 3, we have Pet Sematary. That is right, there is a Hannah in Pet Sematary. Where do we see the name Hannah, you might ask? Well, thank you for asking. It is actually a dead dog. That's right. As you know, there is a pet cemetery in Pet Sematary, and our main protagonist walks through it and sees the name Hannah. Rest in peace, Hannah, dog. Which I wasn't gonna include until I read Peter Pan, and I noticed that their dog's name is also Hannah. So I do feel like Dr. Doofenshmirtz of like, if I had a nickel every time a dog was named Hannah in a book, I would have 2 nickels.
Which isn't a lot, but but it's weird that it happened twice.
So for Cemetery, Pet Cemetery, I am obviously going to give this a 1 out of 10. This is slander to the name Hannah. How dare you, Stephen King? We shouldn't expect anything less from you. Not surprising, but still hurts. But from Peter Pan, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10 because she is nurturing and she's a guardian. Does she talk? No, but she doesn't have to. She's still loving. So, moving on. The name Hannah, because of its association with the Bible, does have a lot of religious undertones in books. Meaning, if you use the name Hannah, odds are there might be a religious element to it. For example, in the Grace Year. The Grace Year follows a sexist society that makes girls go on an exile trip to make them get rid of their magic. It's very Handmaid's Tale. Girls are up for purchasing, and it's very political, and it's messed up. So, in this Grace Year, the girls go out, and there is a girl named Hannah. So, Hannah is not the main protagonist. Hannah is not the side protagonist. No. She is a young, naive girl who is super religious.
Sure, you may be verified on Twitter, but are you verified in the eyes of God?
In the Grace Year, Hannah is basically a nervous Nelly. She's like, I don't know if we should be doing this, questioning our societal norms. Woo! Doesn't want to question anything or any of the rules. The name Hannah has the association, obviously, with religious undertones. So it's not surprising that a lot of the Hannahs on this lips are gonna be super religious. Because Hannah is associating with these old standard practices for women in society. I don't know if the author was trying to make a correlation to Hannah from the Bible, but I think you could make the argument. So, therefore, it makes sense. Was I offended while reading the Grace Year, seeing my name displayed like this? No, I understand, but it was not enjoyable. So for that reason, 5 out of 10. Which leads us into Little Do We Know by Tamara Ireland Stone, which I feel like is the superior Hannah to the Grace Year. Here, let me tell you why. Because it handles those same religious topics that we associate with the name Hannah, but in almost like a morally gray way, which I appreciate. So it follows two best friends. They have a friendship breakup, and over the course of the novel, they're both going through their own personal journeys. Because Hannah is the daughter of a preacher man. You can cut to that if you would like to, Hannah in editing.
The only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man.
For the first time, Hannah is kind of questioning her faith and her father in this position of power. For the first time, she's seeing the church as a business and how profitable it can be. All of this stuff, I think, is an important discussion, that it's okay to question things. You don't have to go into religion with blind faith 100% of the time. I think it's natural to question things, and I like the way that Tamara Ireland Stone has that discussion. If I were to read this book in high school, 100% would have felt so seen, would have felt this is the embodiment of me in a book, but I just read it a little late. And for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So, moving on. So, let's look over our stereotypes of Hannah. We have a saint, we have religious teenagers, and dead dogs. It makes sense. So, moving on, we have Gemini. Which has the main protagonist named Hannah. And I'm going to be completely upfront with you. This one is not relatable at all. She runs all the time in this book. And I'm like, Hannah, calm down. She's literally like a space warrior princess dating a mafia man. Only for my personal journey, it is not relatable at all. She's like a ninja. At one point, she like crawls out of an elevator shaft, I'm pretty sure, and escapes like a bunch of these like adult men and just runs.
Run.
And I'm super glad that we are breaking the stereotype, and it almost like subverts what you expect from a Hannah, because she's a bad girl. She doesn't do what society wants her to do. Love that. Only saying, this Hannah, not super relatable to me. The only thing that is kind of relatable about this Hannah is that she journals. I am honored to be in the best book in the Illuminae series, but I'm gonna have to give this one, honestly, 6.5. Better than The Dead Dogs, better than Naive Girl, but just not relatable to me, personally. So we're gonna move on. So now we have the guest list. So imagine Hannah grown up and repressed and questioning if she should have married a man. Guest list is a murder mystery book, and you're not sure who is being murdered or who the murderer is, because, I don't know why I rolled my R's, but because everybody has motive to kill somebody else within this like wedding party. So Hannah comes with her husband, and she is the outcast of the wedding party. Everyone's like, take a shot, 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 everybody! And she's like, guys, I'm a mother. I'm 30. Her husband is embarrassed by her, and she's like, excuse me? And I'm like, yeah, jerk. Why didn't you back up your wife? Butthole. So she's like this outcast, and she's having meaningful conversations with the bride's little sister, and she's like smoking for the first time, and she's questioning her marriage. And then later you find out, slight spoiler, that her husband cheated on her while she was pregnant. And I'm like, rude. So this whole entire time, I was slightly hoping that Hannah killed her husband after finding out that he cheated on her. Just slightly, just slightly. I understand this Hannah, she's not super relatable to me, but I mean, we'll see when I get to 30 what happens. Because of this reason, I'm gonna give her repressed Hannah going to a wedding, being sad and alone. I'm gonna give this one a 5.5 out of 10. Would the rating have been higher if she had murdered her husband? I'm gonna say yes. I would have loved that. I honestly would have loved that. But moving on. Our second to last Hannah that we have to talk about is in Paper Valentine by Brenny Ovenoff. And guys, I love this Hannah. She is really sad. And she's recently going through like a friendship breakup. Her friend has recently passed, but is also like haunting her. So Hannah in this one is just like trying to figure out life, and is having a relationship for the first time, and trying to establish who she is as a person, because she's always been the sidekick to someone else. And I have to say, Brenny Ovenoff, how dare you depict Hannah in such an accurate way? Because from my experience, I have always been the sidekick to someone else. And while I do not have a ghost best friend, as you know, even though I do not feel as I have ever been haunted by my best friend, I do appreciate the discussion that Brenny Ovenoff tried to have with this book. So for that reason, honestly, this is my favorite, so I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Read Brenny Ovenoff, you guys. So the last and final one that we have to talk about is obviously Hannah Montana. And a controversial opinion, the common misconception is that Hannah's like Hannah Montana. And I am here to tell you that that is not the case. Hannah Montana is an archetype and a cardboard cutout for the true person that is the star. Miley Cyrus. So does that mean we see Hannah's in this really superficial way, that there's this like weird standard for the name that she should be a pop star without a personality? That's how I feel. She wasn't the person the story was focused on, and yet she was. And I've been waiting years to have my beef with Hannah Montana because she's not an accurate representation of the name Hannah, nor will she ever be. You heard it here first. Hannah Montana is not an accurate representation of the name Hannah. She's a cardboard cutout of what it actually means to be named Hannah. Is she worse than a dead dog? Maybe. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna give Hannah Montana, honestly, 3 out of 10. Would not recommend. That kind of concludes this video. This was just a fun little idea that I had. The main message that you should take out of this video is read Brenda Yovanoff. But on that note, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Keep reading and all that jazz. But how much? What am I trying to say? Supposedly have, wait, what? Which is a, gotta fix you. But babe, there's nothing else I could do. I have a song stuck in my head. Sorry for that outburst. We're not pop stars. I'm telling you that right now.